Mentioned the stochastic part of El Nino when you are very close to that phase diagram. We looked of Nino 3 SST anomalies and the thermocline depth anomalies corresponding to recharge discharge. This is another way to look at it. This is the termination of the 2023-24 El Nino. So spring of 2024, as usual, you expect cold blob of SSTs below, cold blob of temperatures below the surface. That's going to upwell and kill the warming and start the Birknes feedback in the other way. Dramatically different from what we saw in 97-98, where the upwelling happened somewhere here. Just internal variability of El Ninos, little difference in easterly winds or westerly winds, anomalies, or when the trade winds pick up, what exactly is the structure of the ocean, how strong the atmosphere is in responding to the ocean changes, and so on and so forth. You can see it also in this way. You're looking at Nino 3.4, Nino 3, Nino 4, and Nino 1+2 indices, Western Pacific, Central Eastern, and coastal regions for 1972, 82, 97, and 2015. And essentially, I'm getting a phone call, so I have to stop this for 1 second. So delivery guy is coming, so let me see if I can wrap it up. So they can start differently and they can peak differently. So starting at different levels of the Nino 3 anomaly or Nino 3.4 and so on, and peak differently and terminate differently. These are just because of internal variabilities, which is also seen for these three El Ninos, 15, 16, 97, 98, 82, 83. You can see that 2014 was warm, so that warmth extended eastward and became relatively strong El Nino. This was one of the strongest of the 20th century. Before that, this was very popular as a strong El Nino, but you can see the evolution and the termination, and you can also look at the westerly wind bursts and the thermocline anomalies. Again, you can see these Kelvin waves, downwelling Kelvin waves clearly coming, and then upwelling Kelvin waves. So the termination was here not as dramatic as this one here. Okay, so you can see how the cold SSTs began to evolve on the western side and expanded, and then we got this massive upwelling in the center that we looked at with the ocean color signature and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the westerly wind bursts, and as we said, these are stochastic weather events, synoptic events, but in some cases they can become very strong and cross the date line towards the east, and when this happens you get very strong El Nino like this one and not this one. So that's clearly a multiplicative noise at this point. This comes very close but doesn't cross over, so it doesn't get as strong, and you can see the differences of the two. 97, 98 had many more westerly wind bursts going east of the date line than the 2015-16 El Ninos. So we'll come back and sorry about that, talk about predictions in a little bit more detail. But as you can imagine, such stochastic components of the El Nino evolution can make predictions very difficult. 97-98 was well predicted, but the predicting the amplitudes is always a challenge. This year in 2026, forecasts have been very consistent among all models, and all of them are seeing a very strong amplitude, really ratcheting up the headlines about Super El Nino. And yet, predicting the amplitude of the El Nino or Nino 3 and Nino 3.4 is going to be tricky. So exactly what amplitude this El Nino will reach is not clear yet, even though headlines keep saying this will be the strongest in history and so on and so forth. So we have to sit and watch quietly, because if suddenly, westerly wind bursts disappear or they don't go east, or you also may end up with easterly wind bursts that may dampen the growth of the El Nino. So these stochastic components are really critical and important for making El Nino predictions. So El Nino prediction in terms of just warming in the the East is easy enough to do. But when people keep screaming so early in the year about super El Ninos, you may just want to wait and watch, especially because we don't know exactly what that means in terms of teleconnections. Monsoon is having a lot of trouble, but is this because we are going to have a super El Nino 6 months later, or is it because global warming is beginning to interact as well with El Nino? So now you cannot think of just El Nino teleconnection. Global warming is also adding. People talk about global warming as the end of the world, and when El Nino comes, they drop global warming and start talking about El Nino as the end of the world. Not a good idea. People get confused. So El Nino is happening in a warmer world. Global warming is going to impose on El Nino. El Nino is going to affect global warming by releasing ocean heat and so on. So we have to keep all these things in mind and not sacrifice science for the sake of sound bites. Okay, with that polemic, let me stop this here.